Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukham karoti vacharam pangam langate girim. Yat kripatamaham vande Shri Guru Dinataranam Paramanandam Madhavam. Okay. So it looks like we have successfully connected. It's always a bit of a, it's a bit of a trial and error kind of a thing, but looks like it's working. So today we will be doing the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the opulence of the absolute. And as usual, we'll start with a quick recap of the 9th chapter and then move on to the 10th chapter. So the list of chapters in the second section. So this is the mnemonic KAMOUD. So K is knowledge of the absolute. A is attaining the supreme. M is the most confidential knowledge. And we are doing the 10th chapter O, which is the opulence of the absolute. And then we have two more chapters left, which is the universal form and devotional service. So we had a small list of things that brought out the essence of the chapter. So the three sections in the chapter 9 were AKA. The first was Achintya, the inconceivable nature of understanding Krishna's simultaneous oneness and difference. Second was K, which is knowing Krishna. And third is A, which is Krishna's assurances to his devotees. Then, what was the A part? What is the Achintya Bheda Ve Tattva? And this is, of course, more or less a translation, is the inconceivable Achintya, simultaneous oneness and difference, which is Bheda Bhed. And the Tattva that is being described is a relationship of Krishna with either the Jiva or the material world. So this is applied for both relationships. How Krishna relates to the material world. He is the same in the sense that he is the cause of it. He supports it. He is the one that is the essence of it. And he's also different. And the same thing with the relationship with the Jiva. Then what are the levels of confidential knowledges? So Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita has been systematically giving us different levels of knowledge. So one is considered to be confidential knowledge, which is Atmagyan, knowledge about the nature of the soul. Then there is more confidential knowledge, which is Sambandha Gyan, that is the relationship of the Jiva with Krishna. So understanding who Krishna is, and then understanding the nature of the relationship, that was more confidential. Most confidential is Bhakti, specifically that Krishna is easily achieved through Bhakti. Then what is the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya? So Yogamaya, it unites with Krishna. That's the meaning of the word yoga. And Mahamaya makes one forget Krishna. What is the most confidential knowledge, which essentially is the summary of this chapter? The confidential knowledge is that Krishna can be easily accessed through bhakti. And then what are the assurances that Krishna gives to his devotees? So he gives many assurances that I will protect you, I will purify you, I will preserve what you have, but come the general category that Krishna is always protecting his devotees. So quick summation of the 9th chapter. So prior to the 9th chapter, in the 7th and 8th chapter, or actually more so in the 7th chapter, Krishna has spoken about himself as the goal. So this is the chapter titled The Knowledge of the Absolute, where Krishna gave information about himself in the 7th chapter. And then in the 8th chapter, he said that the consciousness of a person at the time of death determines the destination. So attaining the Supreme, this was the key, that if a person dies while thinking of Krishna, then he will go back to the spiritual world. And the way to attain this ekagra, the single-minded consciousness at the time of death, is to develop that consciousness throughout one's life, which is essentially is Krishna consciousness. And then in the 9th chapter, Krishna explained how to become Krishna conscious. So we see that he established himself as the goal. He gave the method that by being Krishna conscious. Now, Krishna consciousness is an end state, so to speak. That if you, when you die, and you're Krishna conscious at the time, you'll go back to Krishna. But how does one attain that Krishna consciousness? So this is what Krishna explains in the 9th chapter, essentially through the process of bhakti. And he simplifies it. He says that, whatever, patram pushpam phalam toyam, whatever you, a leaf of water, anything you offer to me with love, I will accept. And then in reciprocation, Krishna gives all these assurances. He says, I'm partial to my devotees. I preserve their bhakti. It's never lost. I protect them from fall downs. I purify them. So the verse to memorize was the chapter 9, verse 26, starting with Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. Is there a volunteer to recite the verse?
Yes, I will do it.
Okay. So last time you let Vikas Prabhu get a chance. Maybe next time, Prabhu, you can do it. Or maybe both of you can do it. I think we have time for both. Because this is a short chapter. Vikas Prabhu, why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, it was a Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam Yo me Bhakti Priyashchati Tad me Bhakti Upahitam Ashtami Priyatmanaha.
Very good. Thank you, Prabhu. Please go ahead, Avinash, Prabhu.
I'll just give the English version,
If you remember the Sanskrit, give the Sanskrit also.
Sure. Patram pushpam phalan yomi tohe yomi bhakti paratam tad aham bhakti upraham ashnani patraham. And the English meaning is, if one offers me a leaf, a flower, or fruit, or water, I'll accept it.
Very good. So the key word, of course, over here is one offers me with love. So in each of the 3 lines of the verse, Krishna makes this point that Yome Bhaktya Prashyati, with devotion, Tadaham Bhaktyumartam, my devotee, Ashnami Priyatatmana, offers me with love. So the verse essentially is Krishna's a declaration that anything offered with love. He's not restricting the offering to Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam, but he's saying anything that is acceptable, that is offered with love, I accept it, because essentially Krishna is accepting the love, everything else he has. The only thing that belongs to us that he does not have is that love. And that's why he is very eager and quick to accept our love, even if it is offered on a platform of something that is very rudimentary or basic. So one of the most popular verses for devotees, one of the most reassuring verses by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Okay, so now that we understand the 9th chapter, let's move on to the 10th chapter, the opulence of the absolute. Yes, Akshay Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu, I just finished listening to your lecture for this. I wasn't able to live attend it. Um, so, in that, you were saying towards the end that Krishna, through Arjun, he tells him to declare it boldly to everyone that my devotees never perish. So, just a thought came that Krishna has mentioned so many things by himself, like as facts, and over here he asks Arjun to declare that same fact. So I was just curious to know, like, why over here he tells us through Arjun more than in any of the other sections.
It's a good question. It's a good discussion question also, and maybe I can I can share it with the group, and if somebody would like to share their thoughts, they can raise their hand. Okay, Balaka, go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. So if I remember from your previous lectures, you had mentioned that why he asked Arjun to declare is because he wants to emphasize on the point that, I mean, whatever Akshay Prabhu said, that all these things he has said, but some of the things he has to re-emphasize. So that's why he said that ask Arjun to boldly declare.
Thank you. Yeah, valid observation. Anybody else would like to share? Ravi Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. One time I heard Prabhuji, like, sometimes, people may say that, Krishna did lied many times and he never stick to his word. He did, like, we are studying Chaurashtakam now, like, so people may question his integrity, like, he lifted the chariot wheel against Bhishma, and there are other instances also he killed. So he's saying that, uh, he wants his devotee to announce that. Like, people may say that, like, he may be wrong, but so that is one explanation I have.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, any other thoughts? Okay, so both valid points that are shared, Akshay Prabhu. So Krishna's protection is one of the key aspects that makes bhakti unique. It's something that we saw beginning in the 9th chapter, maturing here in the 10th chapter, that bhakti is unique in the sense that this is the only process in which Krishna is actively helping. So in the 9th chapter, he indicated that he was partial and he was purifying and he was preserving. He does not give that assurance to someone who's following the path of karma or gyan or asta. So since Krishna's protection is so essential, he wants to make sure that there is no ambiguity about his promise. And there are two ways to understand this. One is, as Ravi Prabhu shared, that Krishna can break his promise for the sake of his devotee. And the famous example is in Mahabharata, Krishna had promised that he would not pick up any weapons. But when he saw that Arjun was at a point where Bhishma might completely overwhelm him, then he picked up the wheel of a chariot, which was not a weapon, but a weapon. Krishna was planning to use it as a weapon. So we see that he is willing to break his promise to protect Arjun and also to protect Bhishma, because Bhishma had made this promise that I will make Krishna pick up his weapon. So in order to honor the promise of Bhishma. But what this indicates is that Krishna may break his own promise, but he will never break a promise that his devotee makes. So in order to make this point indelible, that there are no situations in which there is any exception. Krishna says that to Arjun that you declare it, and because you are my devotee, I will never break your word. So this is two guarantees: Krishna's guarantee and Arjun's guarantee, Krishna's devotee's guarantee. And the guarantee is about the uniqueness of bhakti, which is the aspect of protection by Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. That was very nice. And thank you to Balaka Mataji and Ravi Prabhu also.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful question. And so let me continue with the where was I? We were in the beginning of the discussion of the 10th chapter. So the conversation so far is that and I do tend to do these recaps often, because as I mentioned, that the more often we do it, the more the whole sense of the flow of the conversation will come through. So at the end of the 6th chapter, Dhyan Yoga, Krishna glorified the yogi who thinks of him in samadhi. And then in the 7th chapter, knowledge of the absolute, Krishna gives him information about himself. Remember, he says that I'm the ability of men, I'm the taste of water. And we'll see more of that in this chapter. And then he talks about people, of those who know him and those who do not know him. In the 8th chapter, after showing himself as the absolute, Krishna then gives the process of attaining him, which is by being Krishna conscious. So Krishna then talked about the destination, that having attained me, you will never return to this miserable material world. And in the 9th chapter, Krishna speaks about the Chintya Bheda Bhed Tattva. Then he speaks about knowledge about himself. And then he gives all the assurances of his protection to devotees. So now we come to the 10th chapter. So he ends the 9th chapter by saying that you engage your mind in always thinking of me, become my devotee. So the 10th chapter essentially is an expansion of this. That how does one become a devotee of Krishna? So in the 8th chapter, he had talked about Krishna consciousness. In the 9th chapter, he had expanded on that, on the Krishna consciousness as that one becomes Krishna conscious through the process of bhakti. In the 10th chapter, he talks about how does one execute bhakti and what is Krishna's reciprocation. So this is the additional information. So we see the process that Krishna, that he presents a certain tattva at the end of towards the end of the chapter, he'll summarize it. Then at the beginning of the next chapter, he will pick up on the tattva, expand upon it, and then extend it, and then summarize it. So in this way, in a very logical way, Krishna builds this philosophical concepts in a very simple way also. So the 10th chapter is divided into two sections. The first is knowing the unknowable. It's a little different from the Chintya, but it's a more of a how to know the unknowable. And the section 2 is opulences of Krishna, which is the bulk of the chapter. So K and O. So let's quickly go through the journey. We've gone through this, so we can summarize this quickly. That in the earlier chapters, Krishna presented confidential knowledge, which is knowledge of the soul. By performing your prescribed duties, you develop detachment. By acting in detachment, you get knowledge of the soul. And by the knowledge of the soul, one begins to aspire for liberation. Then in 7th and 8th chapter, he presents the more confidential knowledge of who Krishna is, knowledge of the absolute. Then how to attain Krishna, attaining the supreme. So in the having understood your own nature and having understood Krishna's nature, the nature of the relationship is also clarified. So this is called Sambandhya. In the 9th chapter, the most confidential knowledge is more of the how to. That after having understood this relationship, how do you establish that relationship? And the process is bhakti. So this is avidya. In the 10th chapter, Krishna says that now I will give you something that is even more confidential. So it is even more confidential because it talks about the reciprocation by Krishna. That once you engage in bhakti, how does Krishna reciprocate? So this is Prayojan. Yes, Ravi Prabhu.
Prabhuji, in the 8th chapter, like he gave the Sambandha Gyan, right, Prabhuji? Because in first six chapters, like predominantly Krishna focused on Atmajnan to explain us who really we are. And a little bit in chapter 4, he described about himself, like he introduced him, but where he told about him that because before explaining the relationship, did earlier any significant part of Bhagavad Gita where he explained about himself that I am this, like that?
In the 7th chapter, so when Krishna talks about that I am the taste of water and I am the essence of the ability of man. So he speaks about how he can be seen. So that is after the 4th chapter. That is first introduction of Krishna, a more formal introduction of Krishna to Arjuna. And we'll see that theme consistently, because Bhagavad Gita is being spoken to us, that introduction is mostly anchored in the material conception. That what can you see around you that will remind you of me. So carrying on, so in this way, we see that Krishna is gradually taking Arjuna and us, of course, through the path of increasingly focused devotional service. And that's what the middle section of Bhagavad Gita is all about. Just like in the first section, it was all about karma. Even when Krishna was speaking about Gyan, it was in the context of karma. Even when he was speaking Astang, It still comes under karma because there was a more of a predominant focus on the earlier parts of Astan. Here we see that any knowledge that Krishna is giving, any activities that he is asking us to perform, they are all in the context of devotional service. So the Bhagavad, the 10th chapter actually contains a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna makes this summary in the earlier part of the 10th chapter with a set of 4 verses. They're called the Chatushloki verses that essentially elaborate upon 3 concepts. So the first point that he makes is that everything rests on me. Now, this is not the first time that he's speaking about it. He's spoken about it in the 7th chapter. He's spoken about it in the 9th chapter. Now he is bringing it all together. So the first point that he makes, everything, whether it is material or it is spiritual, everything rests upon me. Then how does one process that information? What does one do when they have this realization that everything rests upon me? So Krishna says, knowing this, my devotees constantly chant my glories. So now he's talking about why is he giving this information? He's not giving it for glorifying himself. He's not giving it to instill fear or to extract any retribution from us. But for this reason, he says that when anybody realizes that everything rests on me, because what does it mean that everything rests on me? It means that Krishna is providing us with everything. He's providing us with the body. He's providing us with the mind, with the food that we eat, with the sunshine that we depend on. And not only do we get the sense of our dependence on Krishna, we also get the sense of the greatness of Krishna. That Krishna is infinite and we are infinite as well. That Krishna is independent and then we are fully dependent. So these 2 points he has already made. And now Krishna speaks about the reciprocation. He says that I help from within. So at the end of the 9th chapter, Krishna had made this point when he talked about his protection. Now he speaks about it more specifically. He says that I give the person the knowledge, the understanding, and then from the heart I destroy the ignorance. So this is the benediction that Krishna gives to those who are acting on this platform of bhakti. So these 3 concepts together form the summary of the Bhagavad Gita. So in the 10th chapter, from verse 8 to 12 is 8 to 11, is the Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita. And the first verse talks about the first situation, that everything rests on me. The second verse talks about the second situation, that knowing this, my devotees constantly chant my glories. And the third and the fourth verse talk about Krishna's reciprocation. Now, what happens when a devotee is reaching out to Krishna? So the implicit point that is also being made over here is that without the help of Krishna, one cannot reach Krishna, which is why Krishna had established himself as Achintya, that he is inconceivable. So one may say that after having said that he is inconceivable, why does Krishna say that I give them the intelligence by which they can understand me? Because Krishna is giving that intelligence. The Achintya is there when we are attempting on our own. In a way, the Achintya is always there. Because Krishna is always inconceivable, but the grades of Achintya are dependent on the reciprocation of Krishna. And when Krishna gives us that understanding, so this should not be looked upon as 3 stages. They should be looked upon as 3 phases of a cycle that is continuously growing. So even aspiring devotees like us, even we get that reciprocation from Krishna. That's why we are able to survive in bhakti. So we start with some understanding, maybe theoretical, maybe based on a bit of faith, that everything rests on Krishna, that I am dependent on Krishna. And then we chant, we do deity worship, we serve the devotees. So we do what Krishna asks us to do. And then based on that, then Krishna gives us, he gives us intelligence and realizations. He gives us the intelligence by which we can understand more. And realizations are experiential. Realizations are from the heart. That we actually start experiencing what we initially thought was what we attained intellectually. And then based on that, our understanding that everything rests on Krishna grows. Based on that, our engagement in devotional service grows. Based on that, Krishna's reciprocation grows. And in this way, we spiral up to closer and closer to the lotus feet of Krishna. So in the coming 3 chapters, we will see that Krishna will consecutively reveal himself more and more. So first he has established the Achinta Bheda Tattva. So having understood this, at least we are protected from becoming impersonalists or materialists or voidists. Because if Krishna says that I am in nature, a person who hasn't understood the distinction of Krishna and nature will begin to worship nature as Krishna. Or if Krishna says that I am king amongst the humans, and the person who doesn't have an understanding of the tattva will say that actually king is God, or the king will say I am God based on this and demand to be worshipped. So before Krishna reveals himself, he wants us to clearly understand how he is distinct, but also one. So the oneness will help us appreciate Krishna, and the distinction will keep us properly anchored in the supreme position of Krishna. So in this chapter, we will appreciate Krishna in everything around us. Right? So this is opulences of the absolute, it's vibhutis. So this is the meditation of Brahmavadis, that they see Krishna everywhere, or rather they see the influence of God everywhere. In the next chapter, It is appreciating everything in Krishna. This is when Krishna shows the universal form. So previously he says that I am in everything. Now he says that everything is in me. And this is the meditation of the yogis. And in the 12th chapter, he will say, I am an individual and distinct person. So we can see why it was important for Krishna to explain this oneness and difference. Now one might say that why is Krishna taking us through a potentially slippery slope? Because yes, people do detour. So when we say that chapter 10 refers to the Brahmavadis, so it indicates those people who do not progress beyond this stage, who simply stay at that stage, that God is everything. Or the yogis who are simply appreciating the universal form of Krishna, that everything is in Krishna. But the devotees, they have both the understandings. They understand that Krishna is everything. They understand that everything is Krishna. And they also understand that Krishna is distinct, individual. So why does Krishna, I'm trying to see how to minimize this. It's covering up my screen. Maybe there's no way to minimize it. So why is Krishna explaining this information to us? So the most confidential knowledge that Krishna has given is that he can be easily accessed through the process of bhakti, right? He gave that knowledge to us in the 9th chapter. Then how one can perform bhakti is even more confidential, since it makes the above possible. So Prabhupada says that the reason Krishna opens up the 10th chapter by saying that I will give you information that is even more confidential is because it is giving details about what has already been given. It's like somebody saying that this book has really potent knowledge, but it's a secret. So knowing the identity of the book is to a great extent knowing the secret. But getting to read the book and the details within the book is even better, and which is what Krishna is going to be doing. Krishna, at the end of the 9th chapter, had accepted his partiality to devotees. He had glorified his partiality to his devotees. Now he's elaborating the extent of his partiality. So how partial is he to his devotees? That he actually goes from within, gives them the knowledge and he drives away the ignorance. So I forget, I was listening to a lecture by one of the sannyasis, and he was making, I think Sachidanand Swami, I was making this point that Krishna is saying that I'm going to be taking the position of a janitor. Why? Because what is there in our heart? There's a lot of dirt in our heart that is covering our ability to see Krishna. And Krishna says that I take the position of a janitor to clean all that dirt, because he's not giving us anything new. The nature of the soul is that it was always related to Krishna. That is the eternal nature of the soul. But it gets covered. It gets contaminated by the perverted consciousness. And this is what Krishna is promising to do. That I enter into you from within. So the glory of the process is that devotional service is a little bit of effort from our side and a lot of mercy from Krishna's side. So we do a little bit to demonstrate our sincerity to Krishna. And then Krishna takes on the role of a janitor. He comes within, he cleans all the dirt, he restores the pristine consciousness of the jiva, and then we are re-established in our position. So this is the more confidential aspect of the understanding. So this is the first part of the chapter. So I'll pause here and see if there are any comments or discussion. Yeah, go ahead, Ravi Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, after explaining Achincha Bheda Vaidya Tattva and the qualitative simultaneous oneness and difference, and
it's not qualitative, it's qualified simultaneous oneness.
Yeah, simultaneous oneness and difference, and I mean to say we are qualitatively same and quantitatively different. After
so the qualitative oneness and difference, that is applied only from the perspective of the jiva. So we discussed this, that the Bheda Ved is applied to both the aspects, and at least in the 9th chapter, the predominant focus is on Krishna's oneness and difference with the material world, where Krishna says that everything is coming from me, I am the cause of it, I maintain it, I destroy it. He gives the example of the sky and the wind, and then he says that, but I am different. The qualitative oneness and difference is with respect to Krishna and the jiva. Like Krishna is Sachitananda and the jiva is also Sachitananda. So qualitatively there is the sameness, but quantitatively Krishna is infinite and the jiva is minute.
So Prabhuji, after knowing that knowledge, is it possible for the jiva to be a Brahmavadi, Prabhuji? Like to think himself merging onto the Lord kind of thought process?
So the jiva has free will, right? Now, there are many people who read the Bhagavad Gita, just like you and I are reading, and they come to all kinds of conclusions. So it's kind of an hypothetical question, not very relevant. That is it possible for the person to be? Of course, it's possible. There are persons who read the entire 18 chapters, and they remain materialists. Okay. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay. If not, let's proceed to the next part, which actually is a fairly it's a fairly small section. So what does Arjun do after hearing this, after hearing the Chatushloki Gita, after understanding what Krishna is saying? So we see that Arjun, he accepts Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, Arjun had always accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but this is Arjun being overpowered with emotions. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that it's the ecstasy of emotions at the emphasis of a point. If for obvious reasons, if Arjun had not accepted Krishna as a personality of Godhead, he wouldn't have been asking him all these questions. Right? In the second chapter, he basically says that only you can help me, which means that he had accepted Krishna's supreme position, and he had been hearing Krishna speak in the 7th chapter, the 8th chapter, the 9th chapter. But this full circle of Krishna's reciprocation to his devotees, the dependence of the devotees on Krishna, this momentarily overwhelms Arjun, and we see Arjun glorifying Krishna as the personality of Godhead. And then he asks that, how can I think of you? So this again points to Arjun's Kshatriya nature. That in the Bhagavad Gita we see this tension, creative tension, positive tension going on. That Krishna speaks a philosophical point, and then Arjun says the how to, how should I do it? Krishna speaks the what, the tattva, and Arjun speaks the how to. Like when in the 2nd chapter, Krishna speaks about Buddhi Yoga. And then Arjun immediately asks that how do I identify a person at the stage of Buddhi Yoga? How does a person act at the stage of Buddhi Yoga? So here also, understanding that the key to evoking a reciprocation from Krishna lies in the devotee developing Krishna consciousness. So if you remember those 3 stages, Krishna says that I'm the source of everything. Knowing this, the devotees worship me, and then I reciprocate. So then that is the key, that once they know that Krishna is the personality of Godhead, how do they think of him? How can I think of you? And that basically is the bulk of the remaining chapter, where Krishna will talk about his opulences. And here well, let's see, because it's covering a part of the screen, I may not be able to read everything. So question to you is this visible on your screen? Or is it covered?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. So can we do it in this way? So Akshay Prabhu, maybe you can read a few, and then somebody else that is visible can read a few. I didn't put in all the opulences, but some of the opulences, most of them I put. So maybe you can start us off, Akshay Prabhu, read the pop-up that comes up.
Sure, Prabhu.
Go ahead, Prabhu. It says, I am the super soul.
Okay, sorry. I am the super soul, O Arjun, seated in the hearts of all living entities. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings.
Go ahead, keep reading, Prabhu.
Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant sun. Of the Maruts, I am Marichi. And among the stars, I am the moon. Of the Vedas, I am the Samved. Of the demigods, I am Indra, the king of heaven. Of the senses, I am the mind, and in the living beings, I am the living force consciousness. Of all the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. Of the Yakshas and Rakshasas, I am the Lord of Wealth, Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire, Agni. And of mountains, I am Meru. Of priests, O Arjuna, know me to be the chief Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Kartikeya. And of bodies of water, I am the ocean.
Okay. Thank you, Akshay Prabhu. Kajal Prabhu, can you take over and read the next maybe 4 or 5? Are you there, Kajal Prabhu?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Of all trees, I am the banyan tree, and of the sages among the demigods, I am Naroda. Of the Gandharvas, I am Chitraratha, and among perfect beings, I am the sage Kapila. Of the great sages, I am Vrigu. Of vibrations, I am transcendental Om. Of sacrifices, I am chanting of the holy names Japa, and of immovable things, I am the Himalayas. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows, I am the Surabhi. Of causes for procreation, I am Kandarpo, the god of love. And of serpents, I am Basuki. Of horses, know me to be Uchchaisrava, produced during the churning of the ocean for nectar. Of lordly elephants, I am Airavat, and among men, I am the monarch.
Good. Thank you, Prabhu. Do we have another volunteer?
Yeah, I can do it, Prabhu.
Yeah, I'll do it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and do it if anyone else wants to do it.
Okay. Who said first? I'll do it.
I'll be glad to do it if no one else agrees with that.
Okay, Avinash Prabhu, go ahead.
Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Among cows,
No,
I
that
am...
was done. That was done. Read from among the Daitya demons.
Okay. Among the Daitya demons, I am the devoted Prabhalada. Among subdues, I am the time. Among beasts, I am the lion. Boy.
And among birds, I am Garuda.
Okay. I don't see it. Okay. Of the many hooded Nagas, I am Ananta, and among the aquatics, I am the demigod Varuna. Our departed ancestors, I am Arjuna, and among dispensers of law, I am the Yamuna, the Lord of the Death.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Prabhu. I think that was it. Thank you. Soumya Prabhu, you want to go ahead?
Sure. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of the wielders of weapons, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of flowing rivers, I am the Ganges. Of all creations, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle. O Arjuna, of all sciences, I am the spiritual science of the self. And among logicians, I am the conclusive truth. Of letters, I am the letter A, and among compound words, I am the dual compound. I am also inexhaustible time, and of creators, I am Brahma.
Thank you, Prabhu. Vikas Prabhu, are you there? You want to finish us off?
Yes, Prabhuji. I am old, devouring death, and I am the generating principle of all that is yet to be. Among women, I am the fame, fortune, fine speech, memory, intelligence, fastness, and patience. Furthermore, O Arjuna, I am the generating seed of all existence. There is no being, moving or non-moving that can exist without me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
So
Prabhu.
Krishna actually speaks. I covered most of them, but his the point that he's making is that I am the essence of everything, and I am the best of everything. So, like he says of the great sages and Bhrigu is the original Brahman, the greatest, one of the greatest or the greatest sage, directly born from Brahma. Or he says of the Rudras, I am Lord Shiva. So amongst the Rudras, Lord Shiva has the most prominent position. Amongst the Adityas, I am Vishnu. So this is Vaman Dev. That he has the prominent position over there. So this is how Krishna is helping us understand. So the conceptually what he's saying is that whatever that you see, I am the best of them. And whatever that exists, I am the essence of it. And once one understands that philosophically, one is established on the path of devotion. But one is not able to understand it philosophically, then one can meditate on these verses. Sometimes devotees, you will see that they share like this. They see a wonderful sight, and they say that look at Krishna's opulence. If there is a great mountain or there is a powerful thunderstorm that's going on, then their consciousness goes to the greatness of Krishna. So ultimately, it is to help us understand the greatness of Krishna. So he's making these two points, that I am the greatest and I am the essence of everything. Now, again, as devotees, these are points that we kind of look at it and we say, why is Krishna spending a whole chapter to make just 2 points? He could have just said, I'm the greatest, I'm the essence of everything. And actually, he doesn't even need to say that. We already know that. But this is for everybody. And that's why Krishna is building this cadence. So this is the second section of the chapter. So summary of the chapter, that when one understands that Krishna is inconceivable, then one serves him. So the inconceivableness over here should not be mistaken as bewilderment. Because supposing we are studying for something and we say that this concept is very difficult for us to conceive. So that is bewilderment. We don't know. So there is an answer, but we don't know what that answer is, because maybe we haven't been told or we haven't studied enough. But this inconceivableness, what it stands for is that Krishna is beyond our comprehension. So they say that when you understand that Krishna cannot be understood, then you begin to understand Krishna. And the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is presented as, and this is a summation of the Chaturshloki, that Krishna is the source and the essence of everything. Knowing this, his devotees serve him with love. In reciprocation, Krishna gives them the understanding to attain him. So these 3 points are very, very important in anchoring one's spiritual life. That if all these 3 boxes are ticked, then we know that we are on the right track. It may take us, some people go far. It's like you're traveling down a road, some people may be walking faster, some people may be slower, but at least you're traveling in that direction. You will eventually get there. So these are the 3 points that will orient us in the right direction. And he destroys all kinds of ignorances. So the ignorance is what is keeping us from going in that direction. So the ignorance of the self, who am I, ignorance of Krishna, ignorance about our relationship with Krishna, ignorance about the process to attain it. And once those ignorances are destroyed, then you can see that the first 3 points, they become stronger. Once our ignorance about Krishna is destroyed, so our conviction that Krishna is the source and essence of everything becomes stronger. And then our desire to serve him becomes stronger. Krishna's reciprocation becomes stronger. And so it grows. And in this chapter, Krishna has provided us various ways to understand his greatness. Okay, so the verse to memorize for this chapter. So this is one of the Chatushloki verses. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pratipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yenama mupayanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this is Krishna's reciprocation. So things to memorize, the key takeaways from this. So the two sections in this was knowing Krishna and the opulence of Krishna. Why is this more than most confidential? Why is this more than most confidential? Because it is expanding on what has been presented as most confidential, and it also extends. It talks more specifically about the nature of the reciprocation of Krishna. What is the essence of the Bhagavad Gita? Knowing that Krishna is the source of everything. And once you know that, worship him. And once you worship Krishna, then Krishna reciprocates and empowers from within. That essentially is the essence of the 700 verses that come in the Bhagavad Gita. How does Krishna progressively reveal himself? In the chapter 10, he will say that I am present in everything. In the 11th chapter, he will say that everything is present in me. And in the 12th chapter, he will present himself as Bhagwan Swayam, as distinct, separate individual. Why does Arjuna ask about Krishna's opulences? So that Krishna can be easily accessed through both ways. So in one way, like these are mnemonics. So they're mnemonics. When one sees Brahaspati, one says, okay, Brahaspati is he's amongst the greatest thinkers. Actually, Shukracharya is amongst the greatest thinkers. So one then sees Shukracharya and then says, okay, that is a potency of Krishna. When one sees Lord Ram, then one understands that's a potency of Krishna. So it's in one way it's a mnemonic that it constantly reminds us, and it also drives through this philosophical point that anything that anybody has is a reflection of what Krishna has given. How does Krishna present his opulences? Two ways. He's the best of everything and he's the essence of everything. Okay. So this brings us to the end of the chapter. I'll pause here and see if there is any discussion. Okay, if not, then we have a designated. Do we have a designated for Narsingadev prayer?
Yes, Prabhuji, kids are ready.